right, hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Quad Pod. I'm joined by my regular hosts, Rich and Marilyn today, but also sitting across from us, we have a second...
Irregular ghost. Ghost?
Slimer?
We've got a second time person on the podcast, Yvonne Locino. Welcome back.
Racking him up.
Special guest.
By popular demand.
You now hold the record for the most times being on the show other than one of the standard co-hosts.
Reappearing co-host.
Yeah.
I was hoping that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
Had to just figure out how to get rid of one of you. And
Yeah.
James was the first to
James
go.
was the first one to
James
go.
was the first victim.
James is probably sitting in a Holiday Inn Express or something like that with his daughter for a swim meet, right?
Yeah.
He's-
Mhm. That's it.
So
He's already there?
I think he was there tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
He probably started stuff tonight or tomorrow. So I'm sure we'll have an update on how his daughter, or are both of his girls there?
I don't know if it was both or one.
I think so.
Maybe we
I
could get him
think
to
so.
call in.
Yeah.
Call a friend.
I'm sure we'll get an update. But Yvonne, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
How are things going since the last time you were on the show?
They're going pretty well. I signed up for North Carolina
Yay.
for those who have
Awesome.
been.
There is an applause on that thing, right?
There is an applause.
There is. Yeah, we'll go.
Because I know where the button is.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Oh, we can keep it going as long as you want.
It's when people heard the podcast, they were all asking me, they're like, "Did you sign up? Did you sign up?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Wow."
Yeah.
It's nice.
How long after the podcast did you sign up?
I'm pretty sure it was the night that Marilyn showed up at the house and said, I moved beds. I had a bed and then you made me move. So let's go to the computer and you're signing up. No.
Yeah. It was actually right after commitment day. I think it was like Friday the 13th. And
Okay.
I was like, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
Right. It's
The
perfect
best day to sign
Yeah.
up for
Yeah.
70.3.
I mean,
So
the
yeah.
race isn't on Friday the 13th, so you're
No.
probably fine.
No, I figured go up from here. So I was like, I'm not gonna, damn the man. I'm not doing it on commitment day. And then
Right.
the next day
You
came.
show them.
Yeah, exactly. So then Friday the 13th, I was like, yep, this is my day.
Cool.
So how's training
Is your
going?
mic on?
I think so. You don't hear me? Do you need a little more volume?
I can hear you in my headphones.
I mean, I hear you, so I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You hear me in your
Yeah.
headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
no.
Yeah, I think so.
How's
Competing with all the other voices in
I know.
Maryland's head.
As long as they don't answer
There's
back,
so
I think it's
many.
okay.
Training is going pretty well. I've had some setbacks with just, this winter's kicking my butt with some sicknesses. I had, the stomach flu that was going around.
Oh, yeah.
I had, whatever other things that are, post-COVID
hmm
sicknesses that just have started creeping up again. So just a couple weeks ago, I had a really nasty sore throat and just wasn't feeling great. And that was the first time that I just shut it down for a week. And, I just thought I needed a little reset. So, but other than that, I've been making it work. It's definitely challenging. There's days where I'm like, why
Mhm.
am I doing this? But then there's days where I'm like, yeah, I got this. I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, you will be.
Yeah, you'll be good.
It'll be fine.
You've done it
Mhm.
before.
Yeah, that's what everyone keeps telling me.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. So, how about you guys?
Doing okay. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
kind of getting
yeah.
into a routine.
Yeah. Same with the winter thing, being sick and the cold and trying to figure it out. So
Yeah. I mean, you guys have your events much sooner than I do. I'm not signing up for any big ones until North Carolina in October. So, I've been leaning on time being on my side for a little bit, although it's going really fast. So I can only imagine you guys are actually like going to start ramping up.
It's
Yeah.
like
soon.
14 weeks for me, I think. 15, 14.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
still
Right
drinking
around.
during the week, so.
Yeah.
that's the barometer.
Yeah.
When that stops, she's getting serious.
Exactly. Talk to me in like August, maybe.
Yeah.
So we went for a jog this weekend, and you guys somehow managed to jog
Oh
longer
my
than
God.
necessary.
By a mile.
Yeah. I called it. I was like, we're never gonna find. And Marilyn was like, it's an out and back. We just have to go straight and turn. We got the straight part down.
The problem is that
We
we
just
just
turn.
talk too much, and then we're like, and Funny, even before we realized that we were lost, we went over this ramp thing, and Yvonne's like, I don't remember this. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, we were probably talking and we didn't. But we didn't remember it because we never went that way.
Yeah. Just follow the power lines, like
Yeah.
all the way.
And they-
all the way
What'd you do?
Apparently,
Forget
Rich,
to
they
make
go-
the left turn?
Yes.
back
To the park?
Yes,
Nice.
we kept
You guys
going
went
straight.
up the hill?
It
Nice.
goes
I don't even know where
much
we went.
farther.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a little bit of that the other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I finished it with Koichi this weekend.
Cool.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's nice back there. I liked it.
It was.
Did you
It
clean
was
your
great.
shoes off? Are those the famous
These are
white
not
shoes?
the shoes, but I
No?
did clean them.
Marilyn was not happy about
Oh
the
my
white
gosh.
sneaker choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were running
Off-roading.
off-road.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
I think the same. I said the same thing when Rich took us, and we, we're on the path 1 minute, and then he's like, "Oh, come this way," and I
It's
was
your
like, "I
fault.
wore my trail shoes."
Luckily, they came clean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
otherwise, Rich, you would have been in.
I know.
You would have been in the doghouse
No.
I just care about your training.
sharing protein powder.
It was fun. It's always great to get together and be able
Yeah.
to do a run like that, and we all pretty much stayed same pace, and
Mhm.
it's always
Yeah.
fun when my friends are injured because then I can actually keep up.
I am no longer injured. I'll have you know.
So just being nice then.
No, I'm running easy.
Thanks. That's the way to go. Go slow to go.
Fast,
Go
right?
slow,
Yeah.
go
That's what I
fast.
was-
Yep.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting on that fast part.
Yeah.
I got the slow
It'll
part
get
down.
I know.
It'll
I'm
get
just focusing on the slow.
Yeah, that's it.
Seeing how slow can get.
Yeah. So you guys, Rich and Greg, you're Eagleman.
Yep.
And Marilyn, you're Mont Tremblant.
Mm-hmm.
Around at like the same time, right?
Yeah, what
a
are you-
week apart.
11th and
2 weeks
18th,
later.
2
right?
weeks to 25th, I think is
25th.
mine.
Mhm.
There's Independence Triathlon.
Yeah, we're
too.
doing that too.
Yep.
In May.
Oh.
It's a
That's
shorter
early
race.
May or mid May, right after,
Mm-hmm.
right before Memorial Day weekend,
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
is it
Think so.
Memorial Day weekend?
And that's
No,
an Olympic.
that's-
So that's 2 weeks before Eagle Man for us. So
Yeah. I'm having a hard time figuring out what like Olympic distance race I want to do just to make sure that it's a good time in between.
right. Yeah, I mean, with the race in October, you have a lot of time to find
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
All I got is time.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
There's stuff out there. So what we thought we'd talk about on tonight's episode is part 2 of our kind of how to train for your races. Part 1, which came out last week, we covered the swim, and this week we're going to talk about how to get ready for the bike, specifically focusing on the training side of things. We've kind of covered like how to get your bike ready and stuff to look for in races, but this one's going to be what kind of rides you should be doing as part of the lead up into your races, and what kind of metrics you should be looking at to see improvement and that kind of stuff. So for me, the bike is by far the most fun thing to train. I don't know. I fell in love with it 20 something years ago, and I think it's just being able to go fast on something.
Did you fall in love with the road bike?
Yeah. I mean, I liked riding bike. Actually, I liked riding bikes as a kid. Like me and the buddies around the neighborhood would go like exploring and stuff. And our parents in the 80s and 90s, like, yeah, you could go
Mhm.
disappear for 2 or 3 hours and nobody raised a question. So I remember like we all got mountain bikes and we'd go Saddlebrook Park and stuff and like just exploring and being like, we rode to Ridgewood and thought we were on the other side of the moon from like the Rochelle
So
Park
cool.
side of things. Me and my next door neighbor rode bikes up like all the way up to the New York state line. I remember there's like a general station on East Saddle River Road, Elmer's.
Oh yeah.
You know where that is?
Yeah, yeah.
I stopped there and housed a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream because I was like,
Fueling.
I was totally
Yeah.
bonked. And I was like, I need some. And ice cream was speaking to me.
Speaks to me too.
Yeah.
Right.
Problem.
But like, yeah, I remember always doing that kind of stuff. I just liked riding my bike a lot. And then like coming out of college, kind of finding my thing was the bike. And so it's by far my favorite thing to train for.
Did you stop riding a bike like in between, like
Mhm.
around what ages?
So I probably like 12, 13. Yeah. Because I had friends who were like 3 or 4 years older. So once they got a car, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't,
And like
I don't
high
really
school
need to be-
years.
I don't need to be rocking the Schwinn.
That's a good bike.
And then as soon as I came home from college, actually, I brought my bike a road bike down to college, but rode it like probably 5 times. I always kind of kept going back to it.
Yeah.
But then like 2003 or so, I got back on the bike seriously and rode a lot for probably about 6 or 7 years. And then just like house, family stuff took me off of it for a while until I got back on.
And when did you commit to spandex and like bike shorts?
Probably like, like in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, you felt weird. Like,
Yeah.
because I went to school
I'm
on, so I was down in Galveston, Texas, and like it's a little barrier island and stuff. So like I saw, like I'd be riding and see people I knew and like riding in a t-shirt and spandex shorts and be like, hey. And like in Texas, that's not cool. Like it's definitely
Is it cool
not.
anywhere. Really?
I can talk into my head, like, say it to myself that like it's okay up here, but yeah, in Texas when you get like coal rolled by a F-350 and with a shotgun rack in the back, you're like, it's definitely not cool. So
When did you start riding, Marilyn?
So training for my first marathon, I was kind of injured. And so I started cycling with my brother. He was a big cyclist. And so I did some there just to supplement training. And then when I broke my ankle, I started again. I didn't love it when I did it the first time. I don't think I did enough of it. And it was just kind of, I was so focused on the marathon. That was just like something I felt I had to do.
Who was the one that suggested that you supplement your running with the bike?
Back then, nobody, myself. Because I
just
knew.
Figured it out?
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When did you start riding?
Me? I mean, I rode bikes when I was a kid. That was like what gave me the most freedom. I was allowed to not go much further, but just something about being on the bike. You're allowed to like go a couple blocks out and around, and just doing that a bunch of times. Like it just allowed me to be free. I wasn't very fast or anything. I wasn't very athletic, but I just rode my bike with my friends, and I guess being like a girl, and it didn't really last that long into 13, 14, probably even if I was like 10, 11. And then just like riding my bike here and there with the kids, or if you're like down the shore. My husband got me a cruiser 1 year, and I was so excited to, once I was on the bike, I'm like, oh, I really missed this. And people in my town would make fun of me, and everyone did the whole I was like, come on, I'm so cool right now with my basket and my hot pink bike. So I mean, it just was something I did, and I loved. I always like have this like dream like fantasy of living in a town where, like Block Island or Fire Island, where it's like you could just get everywhere on a bike in your basket. That's always like my goal. So my town, if the kids had sporting events or something, I'd always get there if it was local on my bike and roll up.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
I rode it around as a kid, and from just going to places, even to school, I remember taking the bike. And then I didn't ride for a long time. And then when like running got to be so annoying that a friend was like, let's get into tries, we went to a local shop and we like picked between a couple bikes, and I picked a tri bike and was riding it ever since.
Was the bike you picked.
I know. What made you pick a tri bike first?
It was kind of like, if I'm going to do this, I like to do it all in. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to do tries, I'm going to get a tri bike. And we rode it. We lived in the city back then. So we rode it from Central Park. We'd meet up with a few people, usually around East Side, 72nd Street cutoff. And then we'd ride out of the park and out and like up a little bit by the West Side, all the way out the George Washington Bridge and up to Harem and Piermont, Nyack. And it was like an every weekend thing, and it kind of like was cool to do it. And everybody was doing it on their tri bike, so nobody actually did it on road bikes.
Everyone's doing it.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah. And it was funny because we would be riding, a few of us, and see a group of road bike riders and see if we could like pass them going by. That was fun.
Yeah.
Did you know, like, I remember when I first started riding a bike as an adult, I was not nervous of the road. I just didn't know the rules. So for me, it just made sense to go against traffic because I would see the cars coming, or like go on the sidewalk or something like that. Not like understanding that a bike is a like a vehicle type of thing. I remember my husband and I, we took our bikes to Asbury Park, and we were riding along the avenue, and we were going the opposite way, and this older lady was like, "You're going the wrong way." And we're like, "Shut up." Now I'm like that person that is like, "What are you doing?" Like, know the laws of the road and all of that. So
The hardest thing picking it up again for me was I picked it up right out of the gate in clips. I fell over a lot.
oh.
Not going fast, but it was just like
So you even started with clips?
Yeah.
You were just like, how
I
did
was
you even
all
know
in.
about this stuff?
my buddy who was doing.
He went to the
trials.
bike shop. He put the
Yeah.
MX card on the table and said, "Hook me up. I'm going to do triathlon."
Yep, pretty much like that.
I fell
was
a
like-
lot too.
It was like the P. You had the Cervelo and the Trek, and you had the Cervelo P3, P2, P5, whatever it was, and a couple of Trek bikes, and like there was a few pedals back then, so we just picked one and went with it.
No.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about training for your bike leg of the triathlon, what are the kind of things you guys like to do? What are, I mean, this is kind of a
So-
loaded question, right? Like this is a very big topic to open up,
Mhm.
but
Yeah. Maybe we start with trainers and road, right? So
okay. Yeah, we can do
maybe
that.
we can just like bifurcate that because a lot. I don't know if it's always been the case, Greg. You can tell us, but I feel like more so a little bit before the pandemic, and definitely during the pandemic, it was a lean into this virtual
Yeah.
Mhm.
trainers got way more advanced, I feel like,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
way more sophisticated. And I feel like, people do train for specific races just on the trainers, and they get a lot more out of it. Maybe we can talk about that. And there's like less stuff happening on the road and more leaning into the trainers. So maybe we ask that question first. Do we
Sure.
lean into the trainers? How much do we lean into the trainers, and what are the trainers good for?
Loaded.
Let's unload it.
How do you guys feel about the trainer? Like in general, where do you,
The-
do you,
The dumb trainer sucked.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as the smart trainers came in, because I was the dumb trainer generation, that sucked. As the smart trainers came in, I love it. I love erg mode. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably trained for like 2 seasons on a dumb trainer, and then I spent way too much money on a smart trainer in like 2005.
Oh my
Wow.
god,
they're probably
those
a
were
lot
the
of
holy
money.
grails.
Yeah,
There's not too many of them back then,
Yeah, there was only one brand, CompuTrainer. They don't make them anymore.
and they had the wires.
Oh yeah,
And they
yeah.
had the
Everything
whole-
was wired. I had like everything was plugged in. I had to get all kinds of different adapters to get
Yep.
it to actually plug into the computer and stuff. But it looked like a dumb trainer, but it was a computer controlled
And it had like a
resistance.
non-color screen, right? It was just like this little device.
It had a box on the front, yeah,
Yeah.
and you could like. But if you plugged it into a computer, you could, they had like a virtual world you could ride through.
Oh, really? Even back then?
Yeah, but it wasn't interactive. There weren't other people there.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a computer. Like it was
Just
like
you.
Minecraft. Your
Yeah.
kids play Minecraft. Like it was like 8-bit. And the nice thing though, you could create a GPX file from
Mhm.
like
And
now,
ride the route?
Now it's before Google Earth and like any of those kind of softwares out. You
It's
had to
like
like
Etch a
buy
Sketch.
a mapping software to create
God.
these things, but you could do it, and then it would take the elevation change and apply that to the trainer. So like everything that we have now on like our kickers and whatever, it was there, but way more complicated and not nice to use. Like there was always a learning curve, where now it's just like, oh, I want to ride here and do it. But I had that very early on, and that like showed me like erg mode. You could build your software workouts and stuff like that. So I've always loved the trainer. The trainer for me is like, I have no problem. 1.5 is easy. 2 hours starts to get tough.
Can you explain erg mode?
Sure.
For anyone that doesn't know?
Yeah. I
Good
guess.
idea. Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
So when you're
James,
riding,
you're fired.
when you're riding on your trainer, there's a bunch of different kind of modes that you can be in based on what you're trying to do. You can set it on like a constant gradient, so it like almost simulates you're riding up a 4% or a 5% grade, and you can shift gears and get into a comfortable thing and put whatever power out you want. if you're on something like a virtual thing like Zwift and it has undulations, you just ride those undulations and you shift from whatever gear that feels comfortable and again keeps you in the range you want to be working at. And then there's erg mode, which pretty much locks you in and it sets the resistance to a power that you want it to be set at for that amount of time. And you just pedal. And if you can't keep it up, you kind of the slow spiral of death and your cadence slows down and then it just locks up on you. But yeah, it's computer or it's like an ergometer, which is where that erg comes from, which is a set power and you just
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the elevation is. It keeps you at whatever power you set.
You just keep moving.
Yeah, it's like you're riding through a flat
Yeah.
road at a given power.
Now that could be also, I don't know if it's still erg mode, but like if you have a training plan entered into your computer,
workout,
like your Garmin or something like that would be similar to that.
Right. So there's a couple ways you can do that, and
Mm-hmm.
you can do that ride in erg mode. And the kicker or whatever smart trainer you have would control it, or you can be in free ride mode and you just have to keep it with your own adjusting of the power in the band that you're supposed to be keeping it in. Erg mode is nice to kind of shut your brain off.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think that it definitely doesn't get you good at doing is kind of controlling, like tying perceived exertion and the effort level all in like what does 300 watts feel like and how do I hold 300?
I would never know.
Okay. What is 120 watts or 150 watts or whatever it is, whatever your number is. But like you need, like when you're out on the road and you want to apply that power, you don't have something controlling it for you. So you need to be able to do it. You need to be able to hold it over the top of a hill and up the next hill and stuff like that. So erg mode takes that away. It's like cycling on easy mode.
Yeah.
So I think people who get into every single ride on erg mode probably have a hard time then like controlling their power outside, but you know, like you were saying, like there are people, I think, especially like if you live in a place that's crowded and hard to find good roads or really bad weather, you have people spending 90% of their time inside or maybe only coming out for races, which I don't think that's the way to do it.
Yeah,
But
that's.
Can I go back to that episode and said I did the math, and if you ride,
Yeah, that guy only
it's going
does.
to be 100% death.
He
Right.
only does inside.
I mean, I think you can get very strong that way. I don't know if it translates. Like, there's certain things about riding on the road to make yourself faster, and like you don't get that on a trainer.
Yep.
I've seen interviews with Lucy Charles Barkley, and she says she does all her workouts indoor,
Yep.
only like the long rides outside.
Yeah, and I mean that makes a lot of sense too. Is like do the really important sessions
Mm-hmm.
indoors where it can be controlled, and that doesn't mean necessarily mean erg mode.
Right.
Like you still can say like, okay, but you can focus on it. You can put your head down and work hard and not have to worry about cars and stop signs and stuff like that. It makes total sense. And then when you do your long rides, just go out and ride.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I also find that when I'm on the trainer, there's no escaping the workout because like you can do a route and you know you can't time every hill and time every resistance change, but with the trainer it's like you're stuck in it. I know there's a couple of rides where they've been scheduled for a trainer ride and I'm like, I don't really feel like committing to that right now. And if I'm on the road, I can pick a flat ride, I can pick a hilly ride or whatever.
You can go easy, you can
exactly.
go hard. Yeah.
And there's times where I'm on the trainer, I'm like, this is not how I feel when I'm on the road.
Yeah, I don't think
I would never ride that hard.
Right. I don't think the perceived exertion from the trainer translates over to the road at the same power.
Yeah.
I think what it's really great for, and I can say for myself especially, is training to get stronger or more wattage or higher cadence, because it's harder to train that specifically when you're on the road. You can't just be anywhere and say you're going to go all out for 5 minutes.
For sure.
But you can definitely say, I'm going to do a plan of 3, 6, 10 weeks, and I'm going to try to increase my cadence by whatever, 10 revolutions, or I'm going to try to increase my power by this much. And it's just like a good way, a lot more consistent way of improving on a trainer than on the road, I found.
I think we also live in a tough spot to do that kind of stuff. I do think that there are people who are lucky enough to live in places where you do have either wide open roads with very little traffic on them,
Like when we went to Muscle Man, we were all so excited. Remember?
Right.
On those
If I had roads like that, I
My
mean,
gosh.
granted, it's cold up there in the wintertime,
Yeah,
but like
but
if I had
still.
roads like that, you could like the idea. Wait,
What was that again?
tongue tied.
Could you say that again?
If you had to go do a 20-minute effort at a relatively narrow power range here in our area, I don't know where to go do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe you could go up to Harriman,
There's so
but
many hills.
none of
though.
those climbs are 20 minutes, I don't think. And none of them are
Feel like
consistent. None of them are consistent enough where you don't have some of them, like Arden might take 20 minutes, but there's some downhills in it.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to do the same power the whole way.
Yeah.
Like, but if you were out in Colorado, like you can find roads that just climb for an hour if you want, or like are flat for an hour and there's no stop signs until the next ghost town that you ride
Mhm.
through. Like there's places that have those kind of things. We don't around here. So I think moving some of those key sessions indoors are easier. There are definitely like shorter intervals, like 3 to 5 or 8 minutes. Like we can find hills that are about that and you just do repeats on those hills,
Mhm.
you know? But like you said, it's not as nice. It's not as structured. So there's a little bit of leeway with them,
Yeah.
you know?
What do you guys like to do when you're on your trainer rides?
Oh, I got all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
What's all kinds of stuff?
So normally I've got Zwift on one computer screen. I'm watching some bike race on the big, like I have a 40-inch in front of me, and I'm watching a bike race on that. Or if it's like now I've been watching bike races most of the time. I try to do like movies, and that sometimes works. But then I'll also have music playing on top of that. So I've got like the commentating for the race, music, Zwift, and then when we're riding together, I'll have Discord on also.
Do you
Wow.
like pretend like you're in the race? Like
That's
No.
watching the
commentating?
race could be like motivational.
He's watching Formula One and he's that
Yeah.
F1 driver. Look, you got this.
I don't know. I don't pretend I'm in the race, but I definitely have noticed, especially like back before like YouTube and stuff like that, I bought DVDs of recorded races. So I just watched the same things over and over again. So I literally knew everything that was coming. And so like if I could tell you everything about the 2001 Tour de France stage to Alpe d'Huez, and like that, when that starts happening, like, yeah, I'm getting pumped up,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
cause I know it's coming, and like, yeah.
Isn't that
for
how
sure.
Trainer Road got started with DVDs and videos? I feel like they translated that into.
No, that's I think that's Sufferfest that does videos.
Okay.
Trainer Road
Something.
is just like the graph. And
Yeah.
that's it.
That one's tough to watch.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely have all kinds of stuff going. I need to have a couple of different things just to take my attention away from it.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, like sometimes I'm just staring at my stem, like heads down, and like
Mhm.
there's noise, but it's just taking away from the pain of the effort.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How about you, Marilyn?
Same. I have Zwift going usually. I've tried watching movies or a show and I can't focus on it,
Yeah.
especially if it's a hard workout. So same, I have music blasting and heads down a lot.
What kind of music?
Like this week. I don't know. All different things.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What do you do,
Yeah.
Yvonne?
It depends. Recently, I've been watching shows.
Yeah.
So it was good because I would only allow myself to watch the show when I was on the trainer.
That's a
So
great way to do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I would like do the ride, and if the show stopped, I stopped it. And I would not let myself watch it again until the next trainer ride. So
Mhm.
Can you
I got
focus on what they're saying though?
Yeah, for the most
Yeah.
part. I'm probably not trying as hard as you guys. I'm in it for the movie. But yeah, so if it was mostly like I was watching that series The Boys, and it's like that I don't know, it's really, if you didn't see it, it's pretty gory, but it, like I try to watch or like I love that series, The Challenge from MTV, where they're competing and stuff. So things like that are fun because especially if there's like music in the background, or if they get like situations where they're in a competitive place, then that amps me up. But I try to watch like really high energy type shows, so I'm not just like watching, you know, a
Fall
drama
asleep.
or something.
Yeah.
But that did help because then I would be excited to wake up at 4:00 in the morning to do my ride. Because I'm like, what happens? So that, and then I do music. I have to be honest, I don't love Discord because
I know.
that's like the one time I'm quiet when I'm
Yeah.
like working out, and
Yeah.
just to have to feel like I have to talk. It's like everyone's chatting and I'm like, shut up, I'm in so much pain.
Yeah.
Stop
That's how I
talking.
feel sometimes too.
So
Yeah.
that's that.
And
What
Rich?
about you, Rich?
Pretty much I'm rewatching something, movie or something. Like one of the things I did was rewatch all the Marvel movies.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
kind
See,
of
those are
I
good
was going to say
movies,
that's
yeah.
what I did, like the same thing you did. I only allowed myself to watch them
Yep.
when I was on the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually should do that in order because
Yeah.
I've been
Do 'em-
wanting to
That's
do
what I
that in
did.
order.
So I
Yep,
said I'm
do
going to
them in
watch them in order.
chronological order.
Yeah.
That's the way I watched them for the first time. Like the whole first time through, I watched them. It was like, okay, Captain America, and then all the way through, and it was like it was right before Endgame came out. So
And-
I don't know when that was, but
For our listeners, you pick up on a lot more things that like sometimes I'm watching when I watched out of order, I'm like, did I miss something? Or like I don't catch stuff, but when you watch them in order, there's just so much more nuance.
Yeah.
And it's easy because you don't have to pay attention so much. And then I've got Zwift, and that's pretty much it. And for our listeners, we go on a group channel when we ride together called Discord. And so
Mhm.
we talk
Mhm.
to each other, but some people are not a fan of it.
Yeah. I'll try to jump in.
It depends on my workout. Sometimes I'm fine with it, and sometimes.
But like for during an
Yeah.
FTP and it's like 20 minutes straight, I'm like,
Yeah.
get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you guys.
Fair.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
I do feel that there's times where I resist the trainer, and there's times I really like it. I kind of go back like everything else. It's like there's ebbs and flows of like what I feel like. And recently I've really been, it's just easy to go
Yes.
downstairs. You don't have to worry about weather. You don't have to worry about anything. It's just like
Mhm.
I have all my stuff set up, and I just crawl downstairs and sit on my bike and do what I got to do, and then I'm done.
Right? There's probably no more
Yeah.
efficient way to get it done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you think about, even if it's like a nice summer day, and you don't like forget about wintertime when you got to figure out how many layers to wear and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like even in summertime, like where am I going to go? Around here, like I keep coming back to this, but like around here, it takes at least 15 minutes to get to roads that just don't suck to ride on, like
Yeah.
stoplights and towns and all. Like, so just get on the trainer.
Yeah.
In an hour. Like it, I look at like the numbers in Training Peaks and stuff, and like a good hour on the trainer is at least an hour and a half outside.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it's
time
true.
wise, TSS wise, like it's not even close.
Yeah. And sometimes just like timing, if you have to do a late night ride or an early
Or an
morning
early
ride.
morning,
yeah,
it's
I
still
had a
dark
ride
out.
at 5
Yeah.
o'clock,
Yeah.
and I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just
I'm not going outside
Yeah.
in the
No.
dark with lights on
Yeah.
and stuff. It's just
nobody wants to see
Not
this
safe.
at night in the middle of the morning. First wake up, get it done, and it's
Yeah.
actually out of the 3 disciplines, it's probably the easiest because you have that. I mean, I don't have if I had
True.
a treadmill at home, that'd probably
Yeah,
be.
I don't go on the
same, but-
treadmill. It's sometimes I'm on the trainer and I'm like, I kind of think I'm starting to like this more than running. Which is
wow.
crazy,
Wow.
but yeah.
I like it more than running.
Yeah,
We know.
I definitely like riding the trainer more than running. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Treadmill though, I feel the same. I actually had to do my run this week on the treadmill, and it's kind of the same thing. I can give or take. I find I could pace myself better on the treadmill than I do outside because you just are forced to go the speed of the
yeah,
machine.
I like the treadmill. I just don't have space in my house to keep one. So
Yeah,
if I'd love to have one, but
I have
can't.
lots of space in my gym in Hackensack.
treadmill still.
And like,
Don't like it.
you know, when I was a member at Lifetime, they had those nice slatted
yeah, I love
treadmills.
those.
Oh, I could run on those all day.
What a difference,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Crazy.
Huge.
they're really nice.
Yeah.
So, all right. So indoor versus outdoor, there's trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the nice things about riding outdoors? We should kind of shit on riding outdoors.
It can
I
be
think
great
there's-
depending where you're
outdoors.
riding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think there's no replacement for riding outdoors. Just like
Yeah.
swimming in a lake is different than swimming in
Yeah.
in a pool. I think it's totally different to ride outside and ride on a trainer.
Yeah, I think you
ride
need
on
to
a
ride
trainer.
outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're purely doing it for your body to train it to perform a specific
Right.
way. When riding outside, there's just so many more elements that go into being
Yeah.
outside.
I think just learn like
Bike
relaxing
handling.
on a bike
Mhm.
because I was like, I do a good amount, probably the vast majority of my training on a trainer. But then when I go outside, I feel because I've done so much riding already outside, like I feel very comfortable on my bike outside where I kind of wonder like somebody who does 99% of their riding indoors.
Mhm.
Like, how much energy are they wasting just by worrying about handling their bike and all the people around them in a race? Like, that seems like energy that you just shouldn't, like, I don't have to waste.
It's not even
Yeah.
brain energy. It's just being that comfortable
Comfortable.
on the bike
Yeah.
outside. Like, I'm pretty sure I can come up with people that I've known that are like amazing on the trainer, and then they get outside and it's a whole different world
Right.
because again, you're not just performing your body, you've got the road to deal with.
You got the road to deal with, and in a race, it's empty. In a race, you have to eat, drink.
Yeah.
And if you're not used to riding your bike and doing
Reaching
that
for
at the
stuff,
same,
yep.
reaching for stuff.
Totally different.
Speaking of reaching,
Hydration.
Reach for the Glenlivet.
Yeah. So I think, but I do think that riding outside, specifically for longer rides, which we do on weekends,
Yeah.
is more key than doing the shorter
Yeah.
Yeah.
relative rides
Yeah.
inside on the trainer. And there's more benefit.
Yeah. I don't think you can replace your outside rides or your long outside rides with indoor rides, especially by trying to if I'm going to ride 4 hours outside, I can just do a really hard hour and a half inside and get the same, like you can't get the same thing from that. Those aren't apples to apples.
Right. Like you can train on the trainer and do whatever workout and do whatever road the trainer has, but Gate Hill, which he can describe, is like one of those hills you just want to just stop pedaling and fall over on. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to get that experience,
Right.
but you get a lot out of it by doing it outside.
Mm-hmm.
And Zwift, people may not know this, but there's a setting for the hills in Zwift that either makes them what they're supposed to be or not. And if
Sort
that's
of.
not set correctly, right?
So yeah, and everybody gets confused about what this is. In Zwift, there's this little slider bar called trainer difficulty,
Mhm.
right? All that does is, it makes it feel easier. It doesn't make you any faster though.
No, but it makes it feel easier than
So-
you think you're going up a 5% incline, but if you don't have that set right, you're really only doing a 2 or a 3.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it adjusts it. So like if you don't have the right gearing, it's more of a thing to think like it adjusts what gearing you have on
Mhm.
your bike so that
So
you don't
then you get
bogged
outside
down.
and you're like, well, why? This didn't
Right.
feel like this
feel like
Yeah.
when
I do
I did it.
5% hills all the
Yeah,
time.
Right.
Ride
Well,
right
you're
through 'em.
not.
no.
Yeah.
I think the hills around here, I get definitely more hill training outside than I feel like I get
Yeah.
from the trainer.
Well, it's like you said, like if the resistance is too high on a trainer, and I'm like trying to really we've all gotten stuck at that one power where we're like, oh
Yeah.
man, or my legs just stop moving. You really can't do that on the road, so you're going to pray to God and get up that hill because you're like, I can't fall. No, not now,
Yeah.
not today. So it just there's just something about seeing that hill, you have to get up. So
Yeah.
when I am on my trainer, I'm like, nah, I'm done with this,
Mhm.
and maybe reset or whatever. But
Right.
it's just
Dial
not
it down
real
a few
life.
percent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. You can't do that out on the road.
Outside, yeah.
No. There was something about conquering those hills too.
Yeah.
Especially
It's
those
so
really
great.
difficult
I love
ones.
it. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I really, when you do have a group of people to ride with, that's probably one of my favorite. I mean, I can't keep up a lot. I can't really keep up with the swimming or biking or running either. But at least with the bike, like when we commit to somewhat staying together, it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
And it motivates you to go.
Mhm.
And I've had most of my favorite experiences have been on those group rides.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's so fun.
For
Yeah.
those people that are listening and think she can't keep up
I
a
know.
lot, we
Last
did a
time we
hard
went
ride.
out, that was really hard ride,
And
and
she
you
kept
hadn't
up.
ridden. You had your new
So-
bike. You kept up the whole
Nobody
time.
believes you, Yvonne.
Keep
Nobody
it up,
believes you.
though, and it's so
It's-
funny.
it's
I
in
was
your
so
head.
proud. I was
It's
so
in your
proud of
head.
you.
You're
You killed it.
moving,
Yes.
and you're just like, okay, I got this, and you're like, but you're like, this is my 110%, and then here comes Marilyn, and she's like, good job, and she just kind of glides in front, and then all of a sudden you blink, and her and Greg are like half of a mile
But
away
it was hard
from you.
for me
Here-
too.
Here's a little
Shut up.
Yeah.
trick. Well, let's give away a secret. When those people do that, or like anyone does that, and we can ask the people sitting across from us, they're faking it.
Yeah.
They're dying inside.
I just
Trust me.
said it.
Like
I just
Greg,
said it
Greg
was
passes me
hard.
by as if I'm standing still, like he's smiling, but he's
I
no.
just said
Dead
it was
on the
hard for me
inside.
too.
Yeah,
Dead on
like
the
inside.
Nobody.
he's dead on the
Yes.
inside. Trust me.
They're
Like,
like, so anyway, and I'm like,
nope.
yeah, don't
Exactly.
talk to me
dying.
right now. I need like the shut off button from like Discord. Just like, no, just stop talking. I'm dying here. I don't
Marilyn,
need your pity.
on that ride, I came really close to cracking, and we were going up
Oh, God.
whatever up towards like Tice's Corner, that area, and I'm following Marilyn, and Marilyn's going really hard, and then she shifted down to the small. She had been
Oh
in the
my
big ring the whole
gosh.
time, and when I saw that chain drop, I was like, "Are you
Yeah.
kidding
It's
me?"
like, were you just in the
I'm like, oh,
That happened. We had a ride one time, and Jackie, one of our other teammates, her old bike would be stuck in
Oh
the
my
big ring,
gosh.
and I'm like, "Are you? I wouldn't even attempt this here." And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh my god, this is so hard." Meanwhile, I'm on like the little ring all the way up, and it's just so defeating because it's just like, "Oh my god, like how are you even like moving right now?" Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like everything else, it sucks in the moment, but then it definitely helps you overall.
Yeah. You did really well in that.
Yeah.
ride. I don't care what you
Thanks,
said.
Marilyn.
great.
Yeah.
Whatever.
but I agree. Those group rides are a ton of fun. Just
Yeah.
So much fun. So much fun. And so much has gone wrong on a lot of them. And
Yeah.
it's the ones that
And
are
those
just
stories are so
completely-
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the one time Rich is like, what was it? His thong. Remember?
My what?
your thong, right?
Where is
little,
this story
your
going?
bike
I know.
thong.
Oh,
that
that's on
your little compartment.
that's on John's bike. I don't
Is
know.
it? No, I thought you had one too. Or no,
No.
oh, that was John had the thong, the bike thong.
I don't have one.
And then your thermos like came out, your water bottle came out one time, or it was some capsule thingy
Hmm.
that fell out. We went the wrong way. It was just like a ride.
We've had a bunch of those.
was-
actually
yeah.
more than one of those where
Yeah.
bottles kept dropping and we kept picking
Yep.
them up. But-
John
I've
got
done
like
that.
sprayed in the face with a sprinkler.
Oh no
Oh,
way!
yeah.
I don't think I was there for that.
I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
I was either.
it was
There have been a
classic.
lot of funny
Yeah.
times.
people fall. Just
That's not funny.
No.
It is funny after when everyone's okay.
Here's a question and see if around the table about this. Like at one point, because I used to do a lot of training alone, I would ride outside and before the super smart trainers. And then eventually I decided that I'm pretty much, for the most part, only going to ride outside in a group around here. And then that's pretty much what I've consistently done. So if I have a choice to ride outside, if there's no group to ride with, I'm pretty
You're not
much
gonna
gonna
ride
go on
outside
the
by yourself?
trainer. I've crashed too many times and have too many
How
close
many
calls.
times have you crashed?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
A couple of times. And I would ride like early in the morning. That whole thing about being dark and like I would be an arrow and I didn't notice like a pothole, lost control,
In
and
the
went over the
dark, an
handlebars.
arrow?
Yeah,
Well,
it was all
that
kind of
sounds
crazy
smart.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean that
No.
might not be the
Yeah.
smartest thing to do.
But I felt like it's much safer to ride in a group and you see
Definitely
you're
is.
seen. You're definitely more seen.
Yeah.
So I'll ride to the group and from the group.
Yeah.
But like a lot of times if the decision is ride by myself for a while or get on the trainer, I'll get on the trainer.
Yeah, for me it depends. It kind of depends on how much I want to be out there for. Like if I've got 2 hours on the schedule and I can get outside, I'll probably go outside by myself. I have no problem riding by myself. If I've got an hour, then I'm going to do it on the trainer because I don't feel like putting in the effort to get outside.
Yeah.
But like I'd say like that 2 hour mark is kind of like my
Let's go outside, Mark.
yeah, let's go outside mark. I don't want to
I
ride
like
the
it.
trainer 2 hours.
Yeah. I'd rather be
Plus.
outside too, but I wouldn't do 2 hours by myself.
It depends where I'm going. I'm
You
like
ride a lot
more-
by
Can I-
yourself.
yeah.
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm going somewhere, like I ride a lot. When I was working out of the Woodcliff Lake office, it's about 12 miles from my house. So like if I worked here on a Saturday, it was great because I would leave and ride here, work, and then ride back home. So it was like a point to point. If I have a route that I'm comfortable with, and I honestly I don't have a problem riding outside. It's just figuring out routes. But I think there was a couple of times when I would have like a long ride and I love how Garmin, you can map a ride and you can say like which direction you want to go, and you can really look at the route and say, okay, where is this going to take me? So I'm not like on a highway somewhere. So if I am comfortable with the area, then it works.
Yeah. I've driven to Harriman by myself. That's the extent that I've done by myself.
Yeah.
Where's the fear lie? Is it like something happening and you because you're by yourself? Like
Like, those 18-wheelers, like you're on a 9W and an 18-wheeler, it just goes right by you, like an inch from your elbow, and you're like, oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
I did one time. I went out by myself, and it was like, I think it was like 3:30, and traffic, and people were being idiots, and I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah,
it is. It does make you realize how unaware drivers are
so much.
I mean, probably the couple of times where it's been a close call have been by myself, where like you see the shock in their face when you come up on, or when they come up on you, and you realize they didn't know that you were coming. Yeah. So, for anyone out there, just be aware of your cyclists and your runners. It's made me hyper aware of people on the road.
Should we talk a little bit about the actual specific types of training, VO2 max, some like threshold work, things like that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's best to, it's been shown over and over again, you should periodize your training. You should break it down into kind of chunks or cycles that focus on a specific thing. And the general, like the standard idea is you get more and more specific to your event as you get closer to it, right? So you build general fitness in your base period, and general fitness can just be lots and lots of riding. It doesn't have to be very structured. It can be, and that's what I was going to say this before when we were talking about indoor riding. I think indoor riding has caused people to, because it feels so efficient, think that they can just make it harder and harder and harder indoors, and that will make them just as good of a rider. You can't get away from the idea that you need base training. You need to develop your aerobic engine. You need to do miles or hours, however you want to look at it, of relatively easy riding. And that kind of builds your foundation, and then everything is built on top of that. The only way to build a tall pyramid is with a big base, and that's what happens early on in the season.
All about that base.
What
all about that base
is the average base volume in hours
God.
For short events and long events?
Depends how good you want to be.
If you want to be top 25%.
See, this is tough because right now I'm like the mouse is spinning on the wheel up there. That's a really hard question to answer, right? Because top 25% at like a big 2,000 person Ironman event is very, very different from top 25% at the PV Tri or the Wyckoff Tri. Like that's a different athlete who's at that 25th percentile.
Well, let's take that out.
Where you're starting.
Okay, so let's give more
Does that
variables.
your starting point also.
Let's give more constraints. So short event, let's just do an Olympic. Let's just do 25 miles. Let's just say you want to finish that in an hour.
So let's do that. Let's say you want to be a finisher at each of those events.
Okay.
Right. I think a finisher at each of those events should pretty much be able to do each individual event separately on a different day, time, whatever, of that distance very easily. Okay, so if it's a 25-mile bike ride in an Olympic event, I think 25 miles on your bike should not be a challenging effort for you. I don't think you should come back from a 25-mile bike ride and be like, oof, I can't do anything the rest of the day.
Right. So what's the volume in the week for that base?
What's the volume in a week?
For that base.
For that person, I think you could probably do 6 hours a week and probably get to that point.
Are you doing 1 6-hour session?
No.
Or are you doing 2 3-hour sessions?
I mean, who does a 6-hour session?
Now, are we talking
what is the minimum session you're doing?
The title of this podcast is the bike.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're talking just about bike training here now.
Just bike training. You're going to do a 25-mile bike ride, and you're doing base training.
I think you should do over distance.
Okay, so you're doing So you're doing how many? So you're doing 6 hours a week, and so you're probably doing 2 hour-and-a-halves, and then or maybe something like that.
No,
maybe?
I don't think you're doing that. I don't think you're doing that much. So if we're talking just the bike stuff, I think I would want, for somebody who's just looking to finish, and have fun and not die when they cross the finish line and not feel like they got dragged through the ringer. I would say doing something like 2 45-minute to 1 hour sessions, and then a long ride.
Okay.
So you were saying over distance. So like biking, would you say is the same as running, where you don't have to reach your mileage of?
You're saying
so
you have to go over.
I think you have to go over
Yeah.
your mileage.
Oh, well, I was just
Yeah. And I
Playing the
think
I think you just got shushed.
no, did I? I didn't push. Okay. So I think the only reason you don't reach your mileage in running is because of the injury risk of running. I think I really think if you were training for an Ironman or something like that, and you could get to the point where you're resilient enough to overtrain the distance on running, I think you would be an excellent Ironman athlete. I just don't. I think that most people, like when you look at these 18-week marathon plans, right? I think going from a casual jogger to a marathoner in 18 weeks is too fast of a buildup, and so you get injured if you try and overtrain the distance. But when it's kind of funny when you look at like the improvement that athletes have made in long distance triathlon, just because it's easy to look at long distance numbers, the marathon hasn't gotten a ton faster.
Yeah.
Right. And it's almost because they're not resilient enough to be doing that really long kind of run. It's easy. Like Ironman is how long is the swim? 4.2K?
Oh, okay. I was like,
Right.
2.4 miles. Yep.
Yeah, 2.4 miles. Once you're an okay swimmer, that's an easy number to go over, right? So you can do over distance training there. 112 miles on the bike, like you can do, like it's hard, but you could do over distance on that.
Yeah.
Not too many people are over distancing the run, and I think that's probably why so many people struggle on the run.
Yeah.
So
that's it. I figured it out.
But
this is my problem.
But up until the Ironman, I think it's very realistic to over distance everything. So if you're an Olympic athlete, you should be 30 or 40, 50% longer on the individual events, I think, and you'd have no problem finishing those things.
So what's your base build for the 70.3 distance where you're doing a 56-mile bike ride? Or let's just say you want to finish a 60-mile bike ride. What's your base build in terms of hours on the bike? And then same question for the 112.
So I think you'd build up to the point where, and I don't think it has to be mileage. I think it should be time.
Okay.
Right. So let's use a pretty round number of 3 hours on the bike for your bike split. Get to the point where a 3.5, 4 hour bike ride's not going to destroy you, because then when it comes time on race day, you'll be able to get off the bike at 3 hours and go for a run.
So how many hours a week would you be sitting on the bike for a 60-mile ride?
What do you mean? Oh, per week to get ready for a 60-mile ride?
To base build.
Depends on the person.
Yeah, I mean, these are loaded. Because we're also trying to ride. We're also trying to train for the run and the swim too, right? So we're trying to fit that stuff in.
Well, you're doing a base session.
But we're working on.
There should be a round number. I'm not asking.
I mean,
you to,
listen,
to
we're training for
Here's
70.3s, right? So if I look back at what my training is, I got up to, I think I did a 2.5 hour trainer ride. So in that time, like that's. And I look at a bunch of different metrics when I'm doing those rides, like what's my average power, what's my cardiac drift. Like there's a lot of things I'm looking at to say like, okay, I'm good with my base. But the other thing is base builds up year after year after year. So the more of this periodized training you do where you focus on base for a good, 12 weeks early in the season, that carries over to the next year as long as you don't have any kind of long extended breaks from training and you don't want to give up everything you did. You can keep building on that. I don't know if there's I don't think looking at it from how many hours do I need to have during base. I think most athletes are probably time crunched. Most athletes are probably capped at how many hours they can spend, not how many hours they want to spend, right? Because if you said to me, design your perfect training plan, I'm probably going to ride my bike for 12 hours a week. Okay. But I have a family, I don't want to get divorced. I have a job.
For the record.
No, for the record. You know, I like all those things bring my number that I can train down. So I'm that's where I'm capped at.
Okay.
And I have to make my best with what I have in that schedule. And also, like, you know, it's December. Do I really want to be doing 3-hour training rides a couple times a week? Probably not.
Yep.
You know, so it's a tough thing to answer and say, like, okay, do this many hours and you'll be fine. Like that's too simplistic of a view. I think you need to take the first chunk of your training and just get to the point where you can handle that number of hours at a pretty easy pace and not destroy yourself, not feel like you need recovery like for days after doing those kind of rides.
Yeah. So I don't know if I would, say it the same or different. I mean, I agree with all that, but I would tell our listeners for base building, you would want to go out there and make sure you're spending a decent amount of time on the bike in itself, like having longer sessions.
Yeah, you definitely want to build up that kind of time.
Right.
Like I don't know that you can train for a 70.3 by doing hour-long rides.
That's what I mean. Like you just want to kind of get in
Is
there.
that what you were trying to get? That was like 13 and a half minutes to get that.
Yeah, why'd you have to say it in such a long roundabout way?
I know what the hell you were
Could have just been there. You go right.
I was
what you were
that's what
asking.
I was going to say.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew
That's
it.
exactly right
knew
answer, Greg.
Is there like a formula of percentage for how much you should train for each discipline? And what would that be for the bike? Or would that matter? Like if like let's say you're not a strong swimmer and you're not a strong runner and you want to focus on the bike.
Well, I kind of flip that question around and say, is that really what you should be doing? If your strongest is the bike, should you be focusing on that?
I'm asking you.
No.
I'm flipping it right back to you.
No, it was kind of like the same question of like, do you need to spend 8 hours in the pool, and I'm making it up, a week if the swim is the shortest leg of the
You take it all
chart,
into
right?
consideration.
So you kind of have to
taking it all.
Right, taking it
What would
all.
you say?
I think you can lean it when it comes to volume because, and I've said this before, volume wins. Like volume is the most important thing that you could be doing. The more volume you do, the better you're going to be. There's a limit to how much run volume you can handle. Like you're going to get injured. Swimming's a pain in the ass to get to the pool for that kind of time. And nobody's doing 2-hour swims, right? Like, so where can you put volume? The bike's the answer, right? So you can handle a huge amount of volume on the bike without creating a huge, muscular issue for recovery. So if you want to increase your volume, it's going to happen on the bike. So is there a percentage? I bet if you looked at everybody's numbers, the bike would probably be close to 50+%, 50 or 60% of your time. And I think it could go higher or lower by a decent amount based on the athlete.
So when you're, because you coach athletes privately, when you're coming up with a plan for one of your athletes, how do you factor in like how many biking sessions you have and how long each one is?
So one of the things I ask them is like, what's a realistic week look like for you? Don't tell me like a goal week and say like, oh, if all the stars align, I can find 13 hours this week. Tell me what you can do week after week after week that won't break you down to the point where you say, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah.
And then we start to plan from there. I look at what are their strengths, what are their limiters, and kind of build it from there. Like if they're a very strong swimmer and they're happy with where their swim is, then we can probably find some more time by doing less swimming and moving to another bike session or a run session or whatever. If they're a really weak runner, like, okay, why are you a weak runner? And then is it just for lack of running, or is it because there's something else limiting you? Like I'm never going to be a good runner at my size. It's just not going to happen. Right. And if I try to be a great runner by putting in 50-mile weeks, I'm going to end up here in the clinic more times than I'm going to be running. Repeat customers. So like everybody's going to be different, but like you have to kind of massage those different things and figure out like what do they need, and what's the most efficient way to get them that thing that they need.
Yeah.
and that's why you pay a coach money, is because they can figure out those pieces instead of, there's no cookie cutter answer.
Yeah.
You know, every one of your athletes is going to be different.
Yeah.
So.
I just saw something. I was looking up some stuff today, and I saw it said like, figure out how to fit your training into your life, not your life into your training. And I thought that was like so profound, because when people ask, they're like, oh, you know, how do you do it? It's like, you know, you have to work around it, but at the same time, like, it shouldn't be all consuming. It shouldn't like take over your life.
Right. Unless you want it to. Like,
it's a balance. Like, you have to decide like what's more important. Like,
Yeah.
can I go to work and do the dishes when I get home? Sure. And that'll buy me a more time. I don't love it, but you know.
Yeah.
And
And
like, you
that's where
pick and
coaching
choose. You
comes
got to
into
pick and
it.
choose like what.
and I also think like it can't take over your life. You're right. But like, outside of my wife and kids, like, this
That is your
is
life.
my
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
what brings
Yeah.
me my most enjoyment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, so I do like to find time for that. Now, when the alarm goes off at 4:30 in the morning, there's definitely questions that are had in my head. Like, but realistic, like, I do think about this kind of stuff whenever I can, because
Yeah.
that brings me enjoyment,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely.
So
Same. Yeah.
that's part of it.
Yeah. And if it's not,
Right. If it's
Find
not
another
wired,
hobby.
find something else.
Yeah. And you wouldn't do it because it takes so much time and
Yeah.
effort.
it does.
Cool. I think we also need to touch upon one other thing in biking, or maybe we should, is the
I have
cadence
one thing
part.
too. Don't just say one.
All
Don't
right.
limit us.
Well, let's go to the next one. The cadence part, right? Because I think
Yeah.
it's a big thing. And I think it's important for our listeners to kind of learn in terms of doing tries and events. There's definitely a lot of science about the right cadence numbers and what you should be doing. So maybe Greg or somebody can tell us what's the
Does
ideal.
everybody know what's your self-selected cadence? Where do you like to spin at?
I've started at 80.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting closer to comfortably around 90
Sorry.
now.
Why?
Because of all the things you're about to tell our listeners.
Maybe I won't.
No,
For me, it's the aerobic capacity that you build up, and the way that your legs are moving. You're gonna be able to process a lot more of like the lactic acid and a lot more of the stuff in your muscles if you're going at a higher cadence. At a lower cadence, you're just using up so much more of the short twitch muscle fibers, and you can hit a wall a lot faster. So as you're going faster or rotating your legs a lot more, it just becomes easier. It just taxes your cardiovascular system. And if your cardiovascular system is built up, that's what you want to be using up.
Okay. Vaughn, where do you like to?
I'm not showing my cards. Where do you like to go?
You know,
I like.
there's not a right answer.
I would
So-
say like 70, 80.
Yeah.
That's probably realistic for me.
Mhm.
I do like to keep my legs spinning, but not as fast as Rich is going. And it depends, like if you're on a hill or if you're on a flat. But for the most part, I usually like to drop it down and make sure my legs are spinning.
Mhm.
Fun fact about Rich, when he gets nervous and he's talking about something, he spins really fast. We were talking once on a ride and I said something and he was like, I'm like, why are you pedaling so fast all of a sudden?
That's funny.
We started talking about Iron Man, I think.
Oh, maybe.
And you get nervous.
And he
Got
was
his
like,
legs pedaling.
He's like, there's so much training.
Too much.
Too much training.
Too
Better
much
start
training.
Spinning away at it.
And he starts spinning real
How
fast.
about you guys?
I'll go first because he's probably got a long answer.
No, I'm just going to give the right answer, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine. I started around like 83-ish,
Wow.
84.
It wasn't specific at all. It started around 83-ish, 84.
Yeah, that's about right. Right? And now I'm more comfortable around 85 to 87 probably. And I've noticed a big difference by increasing.
Huge
it's,
difference from 1 revolution per minute.
What? Are you being sarcastic?
No,
or-
I'm just saying you feel a huge difference and you're going
No, I
one.
think she's
No,
saying
in
that she
my-
was at like 83 to 87 now.
Yeah.
So like 4 to 5.
4 to
I've
5
Revs.
noticed I've noticed
A big difference.
And you're being
What
sarcastic.
type
No.
of difference?
Meanie.
What have you noticed?
It feels easier, especially on the hills.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the right answer is 84 and a half.
Is that
Scientifically
the
proven.
answer?
That's it. 84 and a half. No, it doesn't really matter that much.
You're telling me you could do, most people can do Ironman at 60 revs and still feel good for the run.
And now comes the caveat.
Exactly.
Within the range that most people pedal a bike at on a flat course, it really doesn't matter that much.
Where does James pedal the bike at? Because I know his bike and then run after.
So whatever.
Maybe where
no.
he's at is not the right place.
So here's what I think is important. And this is where, so I think everybody has kind of a self-selected cadence that's comfortable for them. And I do think you hit on a key part about fiber types. I think it has to do with what types of muscle fibers you have, whether you have more fast twitch versus slow twitch and that stuff. And then even within the fast twitch, there's different kinds. But I think most people, as long as you're not grinding at 60 RPMs, 60 RPMs is too low. Okay. 60 RPMs is, like you said, is going to put too much of a load on your muscles. They're going to get tired before you aerobically get to the point where you are actually getting tired from that effort. So you do need to be faster than that. On a flat road, I think anywhere between probably 70 and 90, 75 and 95 is probably fine. Now, what I do think is important, and this is where most people struggle, is most people can't produce the width of their power curve at all those cadences. So what I mean by that is, if I can produce a maximum power of 1,000 watts, can I do that at, well, let's use a lower number. So like something realistic we might see in an actual ride, right? Let's say 300 or 400 watts. Can I do 300 watts at 60 RPMs going up a hill and at 120 RPMs attacking a group to go away? If I can do both of those things, then I'm probably good. Most people can't do that.
That's the goal, right? To keep the cadence the same no matter where.
No, I don't think
go?
you. I don't think you need to be able to keep it constantly at 85. I think you need to be able to apply big power at low cadence and big power at high cadence, and I don't think most people can do that. So I think you need to train across the cadence range, the realistic cadence range. I don't think you need to be training at 30 RPMs or at 150 RPMs unless you're a track rider. Okay, so you need to be able to train within that relatively wide range of, let's say, 60 to 120 and apply big power at both of those extremes. Because now, no matter the scenario you're in, you can apply the power you need to. All right, so Marilyn and I were talking about like Mont Tremblant has a bunch of hills, right? You're not going to have any problem putting power down on the uphills. But what about a 2% downhill? Now, can you apply your race goal power going downhill, spinning a really fast cadence? Most people can't do that. So you have to train that.
Yep.
But I think like flat road, whatever feels comfortable to you, as long as it's not ridiculously low, is probably fine.
And that's what we need to train, or anybody needs to train.
Yeah.
They need to be able to put out 150, 200, 250, 300, whatever the wattage is, at higher cadences and at lower cadences to be able to keep their race power, effort.
And that's
at a
really
certain
good training
range.
to be doing during the base building stuff. So when you have like a 2-hour ride of easy stuff, like do some spin ups, do some stuff where you try and get to, 200% of your FTP or whatever, but at 120 RPMs, 125, 130 RPMs, like see how fast you can get and apply that bigger power.
And that was happening, I think, to me, where on hills, my cadence was dropping a lot. So.
And then like when we said like go sprint, like
oh my
you
God,
just-
my legs like couldn't.
like
They
you
were
don't-
laughing at me.
And that's just something you have to teach like the brain and the muscles to talk to one another to fire that
Yeah.
quickly.
Now, do you like find a spot where like the power, the cadence, everything meets and you're like, okay, this is where I'm at and this is where I need to be?
Yeah.
Like, how do you figure that out?
Practice, try it at different stuff. Like, and that's where like maybe getting off of erg mode is nice because you can like adjust those little tiny things and find
And you got to look at your heart rate too, right?
Yeah, and you got to dial heart rate in too. You know, and that
There's a lot of
Yeah.
factors.
there's a lot of things.
One of the things that I train when I go outside for a ride is I pick one thing. So
Yeah.
like it depends on what ride we're doing, and then there's a lot of factors and heart rate and all that stuff and how the group is doing. But like it might be a ride. Let's say I'm going by myself. It might be a ride, and I'm just gonna go like I'm gonna focus on cadence this ride. So no matter what hill I'm attacking, I'm focusing on whatever cadence I want to be at.
Mhm.
And there might be other rides where I'm like, I'm gonna attack every hill as hard as I can. So like you just pick something when you're going outside, and that's your focus for that particular day. It might be consistency and just kind of staying at the same wattage or the same speed
Right.
or whatever it is. So that's like a good thing to do when you're going outside. Just pick one thing to work on. Maybe people can pick 2 or 3. I'm not that advanced, but you pick that one thing, and that's kind of like, and then at the end of that ride, if I've executed that, it just gives me that little extra like, yeah, I did it.
Right.
I like how you always simplify the training with all of the things that we've talked about, like focusing on the one thing, just because there's so many things.
There are a
to
lot,
focus on
yeah.
It
in
is so
everything.
much. Yeah.
And I'm not good at that. Like that's my brain's bouncing kind of everywhere, and like Rich is good at kind of bringing it back to
Mhm.
what's the important piece to this.
Yeah.
know.
It's the lack of ability to
No, it's
to
true.
do all those things. But I think it's important because you will oftentimes not be able to see your progress, and things like will get away from you. You won't
Yeah.
be enjoying it as much if you've got just like so many things going on. But if you like you did that workout and you focused on a better stroke or
Mhm.
the cadence that particular time, you're like, okay, that was cool.
Right.
I did that
Mhm.
and it works.
So would you say your heart rate, your cadence, and your power should all be at like this optimal place, ideally, and that's like where you should sit? Because like you don't want to.
So what
When
we
it
talk
comes
for
to
like
race
like
day,
an
like,
outside, yeah,
You don't want to just all of a sudden
right.
go
Nothing
all out.
nothing
Like you
should
should
be
like
new on
figure
race
out
day.
your spot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what would that spot be for biking? Like where do you want to
Well,
be? In your sweet spot?
everybody's going to be different.
Yeah, but like
right?
what factors do you want to like tie in? Not specific numbers, but
Yeah.
like I said, do you want to have like a pretty like low heart rate with a pretty comfortable power? And
I'll start the conversation because it's probably the one thing that I will know is that I know for myself that I can digest at a certain heart rate. So if I want to take in liquids and food and whatever else during a race, like my heart rate can't be insane in a certain zone. Like I need to be in a certain zone to be able to process the nutrition.
Mhm.
So for a race or a ride, that's what I'm working on. I want to either be able to digest at a higher heart rate or get my heart rate to a point where I'm now taking in nutrition or whatever it is.
So he's going to focus on heart rate, and the cadence is whatever the cadence is at that heart rate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think
It's
by
power.
race day, I'm not thinking about cadence.
Cadence. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cadence is taking care of itself in the training prior. I look at power. For me, power pretty much entirely. Like that's my big one. Because in the training prior, I've kind of dialed in what heart rate and power go together. I know that on race day, because of the adrenaline and because I'm rested, my heart rate's going to be a little bit higher. And sometimes I don't know how much higher it's going to be that day versus like I might be like, oh, I should be like 3 or 4 beats higher than I thought, but then it's 5. Like, so am I going to I'm not going to let heart rate by that much really regulate stuff. So for me, it's power.
Mm.
I really like looking at like a 5 to 10 second rolling average of power. So I'm not trying to like constantly adjust to little variations in power. And then like heart rate's more of like a secondary check for me. It's like, okay, the power's where it's supposed to be. Heart rate's pretty much where I thought it'd be.
Got it.
Can you digest at any? Can you like if your heart is in zone 4, can you just take in food at any time?
Zone 4, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Beyond that,
Yeah, I've never noticed a problem with
I haven't
that.
noticed a problem.
You could never have a problem eating.
I know. It's
Ironclad.
No, I definitely won't be able to digest at certain heart rates.
But I mean, like realistically, in a maybe in a Olympic, you're going to be over that. I guess. Okay, if you were in a really hilly ride,
Yeah, if I'm a Mont Tremblant, that would be my first thing to dial.
right, that would be something you'd have to be very careful of, and that's where power can get away from you. But again, like if you did the right training, like yeah, you might have a good day, but you're not going to have a 50-watt good day. You're not going to, if you're supposed to hold 150 and you're holding 200, like that's not you're on a good day. That's you
Yeah,
overestimating your abilities. And yeah, trouble's going to happen. So like, I don't know. I think it's those two things. Power and heart rate probably should be the two, and they should kind of pretty much jive with what you've seen in training.
Yeah. So segueing into what I was going to mention was nutrition on the bike, because I know there were a couple of rides where it was suggested that I go in
Fasted.
Don't do
I was going to say hungry.
yeah,
That-
it's the same.
that
It's
too.
essentially the same thing.
But just even because I know that the bike is where you do the most nutrition.
Yeah.
So how do you factor that into your training?
Um,
You're saying don't go in fasted.
I mean, I'm not an expert. For women, though, I have heard that that's not good. It raises your cortisol because your body kind of
yeah.
doesn't know what's happening, goes into shock. So, especially at our age, and we are still very young. However,
Excuse me.
yeah, no bueno.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would that
Yeah.
be the same for the
I'm
males?
not sure if it's the same for men, but I know
Men
for
have a
sure.
little more leeway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea behind fasted training is to increase your fat metabolism, right? That to
Got no problem there.
to pull from those fat stores at higher and higher powers so that you can, it's an energy balance, right? So watts, the nice thing about watts when you're looking at these are watts. Like 200 watts is 200 watts. It takes the same amount of calories if you're doing them or I'm doing them, right? So the more power you put out, the more calories you're burning, period. That energy has to come from somewhere.
Mhm.
But there's a limit on how much carbs you can take in. So if you bump up against that limit, where are those calories coming from, right? If we can make them come from fat, then we're in a better spot. The problem is doing fasted training definitely works. I think a lot of people don't have the ability to control the effort level. So you don't want to be doing a zone 4, zone 5 ride fasted.
Yeah.
It's not going to do you any good.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't have the ability to just dial it down and really be at zone 1 and zone 2 to get the benefits from those fasted rides. And like Marilyn said, 100%, the research that's coming out is women don't respond the same way to the initial research that was done. Women are not just small men.
Yeah.
Right.
And unfortunately, because of the way scientific research is done, men are the easier subjects to work with.
That's
Okay.
primarily done on men. Yeah.
Right. And it's done on young,
Mm-hmm.
college-age men because most research is done in a college.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to deal with women because then they have to try and explain the hormonal differences during your menstrual cycle that just add another wrinkle to things. And so it's easier to deal with people who have a level hormonal balance. So what do you see in scientific literature is 20-year-old, moderately trained men.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't compare apples to apples to a 40-year-old woman. It doesn't work. And they realize that this is one of those examples where it just doesn't give you the same benefit, and it could potentially cause more harm than good.
And you don't have to eat a lot, but you should eat something
Right.
before a workout.
And realistically, fat metabolism can be turned on just as much with day-to-day diet control as it can with exercise. So for 70.3, fat metabolism probably isn't the limiting factor.
Mm-hmm.
Ironman, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But-
So, incorporating nutrition into your training rides, both indoor, outdoor, for bricks, things like that.
I eat all the time.
Every time.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, all the time.
The only time I may skip stuff is swimming for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's
I've
just.
started
I-
putting nutrition
No,
in
I
my
do,
bottles.
but
I
like
did
if I
that this
ever
week,
skipped or whatever, like if I
That's
didn't
where
do
it's
it,
gonna be.
It's where
I agree.
I'm
Yeah.
missing. I'm missing it for some reason.
I
Yeah.
always have to have my applesauce.
Yeah. Like those little packets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little go squeeze.
That's
Yeah.
probably good too.
Always right before I start my race,
Mhm.
I always have my little go squeeze applesauce.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think fueling your work, especially so we were talking about base, and now you get into kind of the real meat and potatoes of your training, and you start being more and more specific. You have to fuel that. You
Yeah. You
You
absolutely
just
have
feel
to.
better even.
Yeah, it's
it's
Sugar makes you go faster.
Yeah.
Here's the other
That's
thing,
simple.
right? The race can be lost in a lot of ways, but the easiest way to lose it is in nutrition.
Yeah,
And so if you
100%.
Yeah,
don't,
for sure.
so and the easiest way to actually be able to be effective is practice it. So as long as you're practicing it, you should be effective in racing with
Right.
nutrition. But
mean,
if you're not,
have
it's
a
the easiest
plan.
way to lose a
what
race.
you see people doing nowadays is absolutely crazy. Like when you go back and watch, like they're on the YouTube, like the Ironman World Championships from like the 80s and 90s. And back then it was like, how little can you eat and
Yeah.
finish? And you see people
Crazy.
like dying on the run, like they're crawling.
You don't see that.
You
that
don't
much
see that anymore.
Yeah,
'Cause now they're
everybody's
like-
eating.
They don't show it on TV.
They don't-
They're still crawling.
No,
People
they-
are still crawling.
Believe me.
Nobody's showing it.
NBC Sports wants that shot of somebody
Yeah.
crawling across the
I
finish
mean,
line.
it does still happen, I'm sure, but not like it used to.
No, but like
I think all of my pictures from AC on the bike was me with like my mouth full of something.
Full
I
of
was
food.
just eating my bars, and it's funny because when I'm on the bike, I don't have an issue eating a solid, but on the
Yeah.
run,
Oh, I
I
wouldn't-
just
I
could
can't
not.
chew
Yeah, I
on
can't chew
either.
on- But on the
I
bike,
actually don't eat anything solid on either of them.
Yeah,
really,
neither-
I chopped
can't
up
chew on either
my
of them either.
bar, and you
Like a
just see
Cliff
me,
Bar
like,
or something?
I do those Go Macro if you're interested in sponsoring us. The Go Macro bars, I loved it, and I cut them up into bite-sized pieces. So when I got the pictures back from
You're always chewing
yeah, I was
something.
just always my mouth was always something in
You're
it.
like a
'Cause I was like, I
chipmunk.
gotta eat, and I was just like shoving little
Yeah.
pieces in my mouth. And I loved it. I'm like, that's why I love the bike, because I can really, chow
can't-
down on
Yeah.
the bike.
Yeah, I can't chew. But I did on Muscle Man, I didn't feel comfortable with my training. And I was like, well, the one thing I could do is I could just eat and like be really strict with it. And I think that's the only reason why I did as well as I did.
Talk to a
Yeah.
lot of people and they lose the race or they bonk or they whatever because of nutrition.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
might as well practice it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know where, like, I think the words no pain, no gain have probably caused the endurance industry more like harm than any other 4 words in, the lexicon. But like, you got to suffer. It's got to be tough. Like everything, like,
So-
and part of that comes from like, don't eat, you'll be tougher. Like,
I mean, it's
how
tough
much
either
you
way.
don't
Yeah.
need water. Like some 5th grade, basketball coach screaming at you, like, what are you? I'm not
Gotta
going to say
earn
it.
water.
Like, yeah. Like, right. Like that's your reward is a cup of tepid, water. Like,
When back when I started, I kept hearing from triathletes and cyclists a lot. And then I want to know from you if this rings true. They say that cycling and being good at cycling is all about how much you can suffer for how long.
yeah,
I mean,
sure.
isn't that endurance sports?
But
Yeah.
is it like is it
I
all
mean,
about suffering then?
It's not easy.
Is it all about how long you can suffer and for how long? Is it all supposed to be suffering?
So let me ask you, if you have the option of pounding 150 grams of carbs an hour and suffering through 9 hours, or only eating 30 grams, 1 gel an hour, and bonking at 6 hours, like you're going to suffer a
Suffer
shitload
longer.
more until you
Yeah.
finish on that first. But that doesn't make you any faster.
No,
Like,
I know.
yes, you need to be able to suffer like in the right way, though. Like, yes, you need to not quit when things get hard, and it gets hard for everybody. But like,
I just don't want to buy into the only way to do cycling is through suffering. Like
Is it
cycling
like
is how
outdoor
long you
what
can.
is
Who can?
suffering? What is suffering?
It just
Like,
sucks. It's like being at Gate Hill 100% of the time,
It's
all the
subjective,
time.
though. I mean,
Yeah, I don't. I
Is that, like,
understand what you're
indoor?
saying.
Because like
Like-
indoor cycling is different than outdoor cycling,
I think he's
obviously.
talking
Yeah.
about races.
People
and
just said that cycling, if you're doing cycling and you're getting like proficient and good at it, it's
Right.
all about how long you can suffer for.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
how
I
much you can
understand what-
suffer. So,
yeah.
and I understand why people said that, because when
Yeah.
you look at it, it's just like how long and how
Right.
hard you can suffer.
And I mean, what you're seeing,
Like your crotch? Like, is
I
that
mean,
where
I mean, that's
you go till you're numb?
and then you don't suffer anymore, right?
It's like James is sitting right here.
Like, I
they
feel
are the
like
same person sometimes.
Somebody was saying it out loud.
I wasn't even
Um,
thinking it.
No.
But like, so here's where I think they're going at is like when you watch the Tour de France or you go to and you compete in a bike race and you're with a group of 5 people going up a hill, like, and everybody's pretty closely matched. Like, yeah, maybe the difference is who can deal with that discomfort for a little longer. But that's triathlon is different in that regard. It's like triathlon's a much more metered effort. You are deciding how quickly to dole out the energy. In a bike race, you're not. In a bike race, you either stay with the group or you lose. So there is that difference. I think the word suffering is like, it doesn't have to, like 6 hours on a bike at zone 2 is suffering by the end. You know, it doesn't mean you have to like go balls out up the first hill and be.
You don't have to suffer for the entire 6 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't want to buy into it because I love cycling and I don't think it's all about just suffering on them. And I don't want other people.
It's not all
to
about
think
just
that
about suffering.
Just being on a bike is all about suffering.
I think where that saying comes from, and probably gets bastardized too much, is when push comes to shove, when you are up against whatever your limit is, like, do you have just a little bit more? And if you can suffer just that little bit more at the right time, you're probably going to get better because of it.
And that goes the same for any race.
Anything, right?
Anything you do. You do 5K, like how much can you push it?
Halfway through a 5K,
the last mile
you want to walk.
Yeah, the last mile is horrible.
So, I mean, like, can you suffer for that last couple minutes?
Stick with that pace and finish it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean every minute of every training. And that's what's happened, is people have taken that and said, like, okay, every minute of every training day has to be a sufferfest.
Yeah.
And that's wrong.
Right. Not everything has to be suffering.
Right.
That's not good even mentally.
Right. No, it'll drive you nuts, right?
Yeah.
You'll burn out.
You won't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Do you I know, going back to the nutrition part, it was a big shift, you know, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, thinking that, you know, when you did a workout, it was about not taking in energy. And I learned a lot about nutrition and performance. So for me, I remember the first time I had to like eat on the bike. I'm like, this is so like counterintuitive.
Right.
You had to earn, as a kid, you had to earn your water.
Right.
Yeah.
Or my pint of Haagen-Dazs at Elmer's. Yeah.
I learned it from how I felt, because so I played basketball in high school, and I would get, I know, it's
Center.
very far-fetched.
Wow.
I was fast and I could dribble. I would feel nauseous if I didn't have something to eat before. And so I've always just kind of done it just because it's when I overexert myself, then if I haven't eaten, I feel nauseous.
Yeah.
And like dizzy, and
to me, that was like the goal. To me,
oh
like,
God, it's a
were-
horrible feeling.
Yeah.
Why?
But like,
it's just like one of those like suffer things. Like it's just
like
that
I
kind
grew
of
up
thing. Yeah.
grew up swimming, and like from the age of probably 9, 2-hour workouts in the pool were normal, and maybe a water bottle, maybe.
Yeah.
Like you get out every once in a while and go grab a drink from the water fountain, but never calories.
Yeah.
No.
And
Calories
that's,
didn't
like,
exist until I started dry, pretty much.
right. And
Mhm.
triathlon's far ahead of every other sport. Like they're starting to catch on, but triathlon's been ahead because triathlon's a new sport. They're more willing to try new stuff.
Mm.
I bet if we spoke to hockey players that they're not eating during hockey games.
I bet they are now.
Probably.
I bet 10 years ago they probably weren't.
Mm.
I mean, I think it's
Maybe
even more
Gatorade
recent.
in the mix. I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear that across different sports.
Mm.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, now I follow like professional cycling big time, and they are pushing to the same kind of numbers as triathletes are. They're at 150 plus
Their
grams of
pockets
carbs
are
an hour.
stacked.
Yeah.
with food.
You know who's still not doing anything during events? Formula One racers.
Seriously?
Not in the car.
And I mean,
Is it
those
the
guys.
same for them? I mean,
They're
They're
I
losing
think it's more
for-
water. Like
they're
Yeah.
sweating
losing
a lot, but
A
I don't
lot.
know about
Fluids.
if they need like fuel.
Physically, I mean, they're pulling
Calories.
G-forces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
For
know
like
enough
hours.
about it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a race car driver when I was little.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
If your basketball career didn't pan
My
out.
mom was like,
Not having it.
I mean,
No.
she was like, all right, yeah.
Sure, kid. Go to
Sure.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it definitely was eye opening to learn about. I mean, I always knew, but it's like one of those things where it's like
Yeah.
kind of like calories for dummies, where it's like, but you don't know until.
Right. I mean, because we grew up in like the jazzercise age where it's like you're doing this thing only to lose weight, right? You're not doing it to be better at. Like nobody did step aerobics to be better at step aerobics, right? Like,
but imagine how amazing we would be if we were like,
you know how high we could have stacked those steps, like. But yeah, I mean, now and I've said this a couple times on the show before, but like you're training, you're training, you're not exercising. You're trying to improve performance, period. Like that's.
And I think you alluded to it earlier. I think we're going to see a lot more development in the sense of like men are different than women, because I
hope we do.
There's already some.
We're
really
starting.
not fair.
We're starting now because you're right. Controlling for less variables is easier in a regression than controlling for more variables and having it being statistically significant.
Yeah.
And it's
so
not
different
hard
for us.
math. It just needs to be accounted for.
Right.
Just from week to week. Right?
Yeah. Our teammate, Michelle, she shared with me a book, Good for a Girl by Laura Fleshman. And it pulled on that whole topic of, the demands of female athletes, where it's not the same. If any females and males are interested, it was definitely an eye-opening book, because you feel it. You feel the cycle, you feel the change, you feel week by week the difference.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And you realize that, it's almost like swimming upstream. It's like
what made me first actually like look into it and read into it is I was strength training, and 1 week, 15 pounds felt fine, and then the next week I was like, why does this feel like it's 30 pounds?
Yeah.
And I started to like put 2 and 2 together, and then I started researching, and I was like, that's why.
Yeah.
How much of it is, because like I don't obviously know too much about it, how much of it is perceived and how much of it is actual? Like, so did that 15 pounds feel heavier, but you were still able to lift it for the same amount of reps? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's...
I think you notice it by the cycle. Because
Well, no, it definitely does. Like I get where those hormonal differences are in the cycle.
I was still able to complete, let's say, the same amount of reps, but the effort felt much harder.
I think we have a whole episode that we could do
on this. We should kick you guys out and just have like a,
we should.
Female.
Yeah. We've actually got the questions all lined up.
We've
do.
We've got to reach out to Dr. B again.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
We had it lined up, and it just
amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it does make a huge difference in the older you get. And I always find it interesting whenever doing these events, where females, they're present. But for the most part, if I'm at the pool, if I'm at a run, if I'm at the bike, like it's predominantly men.
For sure, always,
And the older you get, it's like, you want to do it, and you want to be mindful of your limitations, but also being able to continue. And
there's ways to like,
because you perform better.
Yeah, and there's ways to kind of work around it with nutrition and stuff. So, but it's still there always.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just the expectations, I guess, of the female outside of sport, where you don't have that mindset of nutrition and fueling yourself, because it is so different from how we grew up. It is a big shift.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like just the body image issues and stuff like that people have to, feel like they've been hoisted upon themselves. Like that's tough to then be like, okay, now I need to just eat this sugar water for 3 hours. Like,
And the thing is too, you go, and people know that you're doing these things. And if you don't have the appearance of their expectation of what someone should look like who does this type of sport.
Right.
Like that's another layer of it.
That's what's so great about triathlon though, is that there's people all different shapes and
but I'll tell you,
sizes, like more than any other sport.
When we were up at Muscle Man, there was this dude getting like changed. Like he had the door open to his truck and he was getting changed. And I'm like, I got some serious body image issues right now, because he was like Adonis. This dude, he was like.
When you're in the tri world, you see that difference.
That's
but when you're with like your friends or your family and everything, it's like, really?
Yeah.
Is that what you do? You're up at 5? I don't know. Yeah. And you're just like, I swear I am.
Yeah.
But in other sports, it's not it's not so widespread, you know, it's more.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I
Yeah.
love it. I love it because like literally anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the fact that you can participate, and I know that I mentioned this when I was on a couple of months ago, the fact that really, if you put your mind to it and you do the proper training, you really there's no one that can't do it, and
Right.
we see it all the time, and that's what, and it's so supportive, and that's the beauty of this sport. But you know, again, those underlying type of expectations that you
Yeah,
have,
for
and,
sure.
and the fact that if you're not in it, you don't understand it.
Mhm.
So
I kind of feel like a lot of sports have it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's all kind of that kind of stuff in every sport.
Oh, there is.
to an extent, I mean, like I'm not going to join a basketball team. I don't play basketball. Like, and even if I tried,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen, you know. But for this, I just feel like it's so accessible, and really, it's just, you know, the preparation to do it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like in the last 2-3 years, like advertising has gotten better at kind of showing all different
Mhm.
shapes and colors and of everything, you know, in their ads and stuff to like help with that inclusivity, and you know, representation matters, and like being able to see that everybody could do this is important,
Mhm.
you know. And I think I've seen a better job of that kind of stuff out there, you know, in the last couple of years. I don't
Yeah,
know. But-
absolutely.
So I think that's probably a good spot to
Yeah.
stop, right? I don't think
It's
we
a
should
very
talk
good
about
spot.
VO2 max efforts and stuff at this point.
No,
I think we,
can save it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks, Yvonne, for coming on. That was wonderful. You did a great job.
I know.
you
This was
again.
fun.
You
having
might have
another
James's
girl in the
permanent
Can we get the
spot.
applause
Yeah.
back, please?
And if James goes missing,
Good job.
thank
Yvonne.
you,
Yeah.
thank you. That's why I do it.
So thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already. Leave a comment if you've got an idea for us, or just to say that you love listening to the show. And with that, next week we'll be back with how to train for your run. All right.
And James.
And well,
Yeah.
maybe we'll see.
Maybe.
I know.
All right. Thanks everybody. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks everyone for listening to the Next Level Quad Pod. We really appreciate you spending time with us and listening to everything that we have to offer. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review and a rating. Those little things go a long way towards us being able to bring you more content like this. If you'd like to learn more about what we have to offer, please go to our website at goteamnltry.com. There, you can find out about all the different things we provide that can help you reach your athletic potential. Thank you again for finding time in your busy schedule to spend some time with the Quad Pod.